You may not have a word for it yet, but something is already moving. Over the next 7 days, Aquarius is about to experience a sequence of internal shifts that will be unmistakable once you know what to look for. These are not dramatic, visible changes that happen all at once. They are the kind of shifts that happen in the quiet moments, in the way a thought arrives differently than it did before, in the way a conversation touches something in you that has been waiting to be touched, in the way your body feels a little less heavy and your mind a little more clear. Aquarius is one of the most mentally active signs in the zodiac. Your mind is almost always running, processing, analyzing, connecting pieces of information that most people would never think to put together. And because your mind is so busy, the signals that life sends you sometimes have to work hard to get through. They have to repeat themselves. They have to show up in multiple forms before you slow down enough to receive them. Over the next 7 days, those signals are going to be easier to hear. Not because life is suddenly speaking louder, but because something in you is ready to listen in a way you have not quite been able to before. The air sign energy that runs through you is perfectly positioned to receive what is coming. Air signs think, communicate, and process. And what is coming your way over the next 7 days is something that your thinking mind and your deeper knowing will both be able to receive, each in their own language. Here are 11 shifts that Aquarius will notice over the next 7 days. Shift 1. Your mind will begin to quiet in unexpected moments. Aquarius is known for having a mind that rarely slows down. You think about everything. You analyze your choices, your relationships, the state of the world, the things you want to build and change and improve. Your mental activity is one of your greatest strengths, but it can also become a kind of noise that makes it hard to hear the deeper signals that are trying to reach you. Over the next 7 days, you will notice something unusual happening. There will be moments, brief but clear, when your mind suddenly becomes very quiet. Not the quietness of exhaustion, not the blank kind of quiet that happens when you are too tired to think. This will be the quality of quiet that feels almost like presence itself. The kind of quiet where you notice the details of whatever is in front of you, where a thought arises that is clear and complete rather than tangled and partial, where something in you that does not usually have room to speak finally gets a moment to be heard. These quiet moments may arrive when you are doing something ordinary, washing dishes, taking a short walk, sitting in a car, waking up before the alarm goes off. Do not rush through them. Do not immediately fill them with something from your phone or your to-do list. Let them be what they are. Because in those moments of unexpected quiet, some of the most important information that your deeper self has been trying to give you will finally have the space to surface. Aquarius often receives its best ideas in these liminal spaces between active thinking. The next 7 days will bring more of them than usual. Pay close attention to what arrives when the noise stops. What you hear in those moments will be worth writing down. Shift 2. A conversation will open a door you did not know was closed. Aquarius loves ideas and thrives in conversation, particularly the kind of conversation that goes beneath the surface of small talk and into the territory of real thinking. Over the next 7 days, one particular conversation is going to stand out. It may be with someone you already know well. It may be with someone you have not spoken to in a while, someone who reaches out, or someone you happen to encounter in a way that feels slightly coincidental. It may even be a brief exchange with someone you have never met before, a stranger in the right place at the right time. Whatever the source, this conversation will open something. It will bring up a topic or a perspective or a piece of information that shifts the way you are looking at something important in your life. Aquarius is a sign that processes through ideas and conversation. You often do not know what you actually think about something until you say it out loud or hear someone else say it in a way that either resonates or challenges you productively. This upcoming conversation will do one of those things. Either it will give you language for something you have been feeling, but could not yet articulate, or it will present an angle on a situation that causes you to rethink your position in a way that ultimately points you towards something better. Be open to conversations that seem casual but feel deeper than they should. Aquarius receives important messages through the minds of other people, through the friction and flow of ideas being exchanged. The door that opens in the next 7 days may look like a simple exchange, but what it leads to will be anything but simple. If what you are hearing feels accurate, know that it could happen if you apply this energy consistently for 21 consecutive days. That is the 21-day challenge pinned at the top of this channel. It is built around daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you are tired of staying in the same cycle, That structure is exactly what has been missing. Shift 3. You will begin to see a situation from a completely different angle. There is something in your life right now that you have been looking at for a while from the same perspective. A problem that keeps appearing the same way no matter how many times you think about it. A relationship dynamic that feels stuck. A question about your direction that does not seem to want to resolve. Whatever it is, you have likely tried to solve it the same way multiple times, using the tools and frameworks you already have. Over the next 7 days, something is going to shift in how you see that situation. It will not be a dramatic revelation. It will be more like a light moving slightly, and suddenly the shadows fall differently, and you can see details that were there all along but hidden from your usual angle. Aquarius is exceptionally gifted at systems thinking, at seeing how pieces connect in ways that are not obvious to most people. But this gift only works fully when you are able to get enough distance from a situation to see it as a system rather than as a problem you are in the middle of. The shift that is coming over the next 7 days will give you that distance. Something will create a small but meaningful separation between you and the way you have been experiencing the situation, and in that separation you will find something valuable. A reframe, a recognition, a new understanding of what the situation is actually asking of you rather than what it has appeared to be asking. What looks like a block from one angle often looks like a redirection from another. Aquarius at their best is the person who finds the angle no one else thought to look from. That version of you is about to go to work on something that has needed a fresh perspective for longer than you realize. Shift 4. Your energy levels will surprise you on 1 or more days. Aquarius can go through periods where the mental weight of everything you are processing becomes physically tiring. When you are carrying a lot of unresolved thoughts, unanswered questions, and unmade decisions, the body registers that weight even when the mind keeps pushing forward. There are seasons where Aquarius feels perpetually behind, not on tasks exactly, but on the larger project of figuring out the next phase of life. That kind of deep uncertainty is exhausting even when nothing is visibly wrong. Over the next 7 days, you will notice a difference in your energy on at least 1 or 2 days. Not because everything is suddenly resolved, but because something in you will begin to release the effort of holding patterns that were costing more energy than you realized. When you have been bracing for impact for a long time, you forget that you are bracing. The tension becomes background. And when it begins to ease, you may not immediately identify it as relief. You will just notice that on a particular morning you woke up feeling lighter. That a task that felt impossible the week before suddenly feels manageable. That you have a desire to do something that you had stopped wanting to do. Energy returning is a physical confirmation that something is changing internally. The body always follows what is happening in the deeper self, often with a slight delay. The release that is occurring inside you right now will show up in your energy over the coming days. Notice it. Welcome it. Use it. Aquarius in motion is a force. And when your energy returns, even partially and temporarily, it is a sign that the motion is ready to begin. Shift 5. Something you have been waiting for will begin to move. There is something you have been patient about. Something you have hoped for, worked toward, or simply held on to through a long season of not knowing when or whether it would arrive. Over the next 7 days, there will be a sign of movement in that area. Not necessarily a complete resolution. Not the full answer to the question you have been carrying, but movement. A step forward. A response to something you sent out into the world. A development that tells you the waiting was not for nothing. Aquarius is a sign that can sustain hope for a long time. You believe in what is possible even when the evidence is slow to arrive. But sustained hope without any feedback can begin to wear on even the most vision-oriented mind. The feedback is coming. Look for it in small things. In the message that arrives unexpectedly. In the conversation that shifts the energy around something you had started to doubt. In the opportunity that arrives not fully formed but clearly pointing in the right direction. Aquarius does not need everything at once. What you need, what your spirit genuinely responds to, is the signal that the direction you have chosen is real and that continuing to move in it is worth it. That signal is arriving over the next 7 days. The movement may be subtle, but for someone who has been watching for it as carefully as you have, it will not be hard to recognize. Something that was still is beginning to move. Something that was closed is beginning to open. Be ready to respond when it does, because the first sign of movement is also the first invitation to participate in what is becoming. Shift 6. You will feel drawn to reconnect with something you left behind. Over the next 7 days, there is a strong pull for Aquarius towards something from the past. Not necessarily a person, though it could be. It might be a creative project you set aside. A practice like writing or painting or music or physical movement that used to feed your spirit but got crowded out by the demands of daily life. A way of thinking about yourself that you inhabited during a period when you felt more fully like yourself. A place, a community, a body of knowledge, a kind of conversation that used to energize you before something changed and you drifted away from it. That pull is not accidental. Aquarius is in a season of remembering. Not the painful kind of remembering that reopens old wounds. The nourishing kind that reconnects you with resources you forgot you had. The parts of yourself that you left behind in the rush of adapting and surviving and figuring out what came next were not lost. They were stored. They were waiting. Over the next 7 days, the path back to some of those things will become clearer. You may feel an impulse to reach out to someone from a previous chapter, or to pick up something you put down years ago and see what it feels like to hold it again, or to revisit a belief about yourself that you have not carried in a while. Follow that impulse. Aquarius is at its best when all its parts are in communication with each other, when the forward-facing visionary and the curious, rich inner life are not in separate rooms but are working together. Reconnecting with what you left behind is not going backward. It is gathering yourself before you move forward with everything you have. If this message is resonating with your sign right now, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it sends exactly the right signal at exactly the right moment. And you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support, whether as a subscriber or as a member of this community, is what keeps these messages alive. The ones that touch hearts, awaken minds, and transform lives. If this video has been making sense to you, drop in the comments the day you were born. Let us keep going. Shift 7. Your relationship with someone important will shift. Aquarius values connection but also guards independence fiercely. The balance between closeness and freedom is one of the central tensions in how you relate to the people you care about most. You want real intimacy, the kind where someone knows the actual you, the version that thinks unconventionally and feels deeply and has ideas that most people find puzzling or impractical. But you are also acutely sensitive to anything that feels like control or expectation, or the unspoken pressure to be different than you are. Over the next 7 days, a relationship that matters to you will undergo a shift. It may come through a conversation that reveals something you did not previously understand about the other person, or about how they see you. It may come through a situation that tests the dynamic between you in a way that ultimately clarifies where things actually stand. It may come through the simple experience of being fully present with someone in a way that you have not quite managed before, and finding that the experience of being truly seen is less frightening than you expected. The shift will not necessarily be comfortable. Growth in relationships rarely is. But the discomfort, if it comes, will not be the pointless kind. It will be the kind that leaves you with more clarity, more honesty, more of a real foundation than you had before the shift occurred. Aquarius growing in relationship means learning to stay present when the instinct is to withdraw, to say the real thing when the easy thing is available, to trust that the person on the other side of the conversation deserves the real version of what you think and feel. That kind of trust is building in you right now. And over the next 7 days, it will have the opportunity to be expressed. Shift 8. A decision that has been hanging will begin to resolve. There is something you have not been able to decide. You have turned it over many times. You have made pro and con lists, had conversations about it, slept on it, avoided thinking about it for stretches, and then come back to it. And still, the clarity you need to fully commit to one direction or the other has not quite arrived. Over the next 7 days, this will begin to change. Not through the arrival of new information necessarily, though that is possible. More likely, through the arrival of a feeling of readiness that does not depend on having more information than you currently have. Aquarius struggles with certain decisions not because you lack intelligence but because you are aware of how many variables you cannot control, and that awareness can make every option feel insufficiently certain. But there is a point in every decision where gathering more data is just a more sophisticated form of avoiding the choice. And that point is approaching. The shift over the next 7 days will be a quiet but unmistakable movement toward one direction. You will notice it because the alternative will begin to feel less viable. Not because it became objectively worse, but because your inner compass has finally settled on which way is forward for you right now. Trust that settling. Aquarius is one of the most capable signs in the zodiac of handling the consequences of a decision made with full commitment. The uncertainty that has been holding you in place has more to do with where you were a few weeks ago than where you are now. The person you are becoming is more equipped to handle either outcome than the person who first started wrestling with this decision. Let the resolution come. It is ready to arrive. Shift 9. Your creativity or originality will surprise even you. Aquarius has one of the most original minds in the zodiac. You think in ways that simply do not follow the standard paths. Your associations are unusual, your conclusions are often ahead of their time, and the solutions you come up with when you are truly engaged with a problem have a quality that people often describe as visionary. But creativity, even in Aquarius, can go through dry seasons. When you are under stress, or when you are in an environment that does not reward original thinking, or when you have spent a long time in survival mode, the creative spark can dim. It does not disappear, but it stops flowing freely and starts feeling like something you have to force rather than something that moves through you naturally. Over the next 7 days, something is going to come through you that surprises even you. An idea, a solution, a way of expressing or creating or connecting that arrives with a freshness and a clarity that feels genuinely new. It may show up in your work, in your personal life, in a conversation, or in a quiet moment of solitude where a thought arrives that you want to capture before it disappears. Be ready for it. Have somewhere to put it. Keep a notebook nearby, or your phone within reach, because the ideas that come through in these surges of creative return are worth recording. Aquarius in a creative surge is not just personally satisfying. It is often the seed of something that will eventually matter far beyond the moment it arrives. The originality that has always been your signature quality is waking back up. Something in you that has been quiet is finding its voice again. Over the next 7 days, make room for it. Give it time and space and the attention it deserves. Shift 10. Your sense of what you truly want will become sharper. Aquarius can be very clear about what you believe and what you stand for in an abstract sense. You know your values. You know what kind of world you want to help build. But when it comes to the more personal question of what you actually want for your own life, for your day-to-day experience, for your relationships, your work, your sense of self, that clarity is sometimes harder to access. You may have spent so long thinking about what is good for the collective, what the right thing to do is, what other people need, that you have lost track of a simpler and more personal question. What do I want? Over the next 7 days, that question will become easier to answer. Not through analysis, not through another round of examining your values and mapping them onto your choices, through something quieter and more direct, through the simple experience of noticing what feels right in your body when you imagine different possibilities. What makes something in you light up versus what makes something in you contract. What you move toward when nothing external is pushing you. What you keep coming back to even when you tell yourself it is not practical. The sharpening of personal desire is an important shift for Aquarius because desire is directional. When you know what you actually want, not what you think you should want or what would make sense given your current circumstances, but what you genuinely, privately want, the next steps become obvious in a way they cannot be when that clarity is missing. Over the next 7 days, that clarity is on its way. Let it arrive. Let it be as simple as it is. Aquarius is allowed to want what they want, and knowing that clearly is the beginning of everything. Shift 11. You will feel a genuine sense of hope that does not need to be explained. The final shift that Aquarius will notice over the next 7 days is perhaps the hardest one to describe and the easiest one to recognize when it arrives. It is hope. Not the anxious kind of hope that lives alongside fear and constantly checks over its shoulder. Not the intellectual kind of hope that is a conclusion you reach after weighing evidence. It is the simple, direct, embodied experience of feeling like things are going to be okay. That the direction you are moving in is the right one. That the version of your life you have been working toward is real and within reach. That the people who matter to you are going to be okay. That you, specifically you, with your particular mind and your particular gifts and your particular history, are going to land somewhere good. Aquarius is not always comfortable with hope. It can feel dangerously close to naivety, and your sign has a deep aversion to naivety. You have seen enough of how the world actually works to be skeptical of anything that feels too easy or too optimistic. But the hope that is coming over the next 7 days is not naive. It is the kind that has been earned through a long season of genuine reckoning. It is the hope that arrives after you have already done the hard work of facing what needed to be faced and choosing what needed to be chosen. That kind of hope is not a feeling that can be argued out of you. It arrives when the deeper self recognizes that something real is building, that the ground is more solid than it recently felt, that the path is more visible than it was even a few weeks ago. Let it arrive. Let yourself feel it without immediately questioning whether you deserve it or whether it is realistic. You do. It is. And it will carry you further into the next phase of your life than any amount of additional analysis ever could. If this message resonated with your sign, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it always sends exactly the right signal, and you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support as a subscriber or as a member of this community is what keeps these messages alive. They are the messages that touch, awaken, and transform. If this video made sense to you, leave in the comments the day you were born. Aquarius, as we close out this message, there is something simple and important that needs to be said directly to you. The 7 days ahead of you are not just 7 ordinary days. They are 7 days in which you have the opportunity to receive, to notice, to open, and to respond to things that have been trying to reach you through a season of noise and busyness and the hard work of keeping everything together. You are not the kind of person who goes through life on the surface. You were never built for that. You were built to think deeply, to question everything, to care genuinely about things that matter beyond your immediate world, and to find ways of expressing and contributing and connecting that carry your particular imprint on them. The 11 shifts you heard about today are not predictions in the sense of things that will simply happen to you whether you participate or not. They are invitations. They will be available. Whether you receive them fully depends on how present and open you are willing to be over the next 7 days. That means slowing down just slightly. It means noticing the quiet moments instead of rushing past them. It means taking seriously the conversation that feels important, the idea that keeps returning, the feeling that something is shifting, the person who shows up at an unexpected time. It means trusting that the universe is not indifferent to where you are in your journey, and that the signals being sent to you right now are real and worth receiving. Aquarius, you are in a season of genuine movement. Not movement imposed from outside, but movement that is rising from the deepest part of who you are. The next 7 days are not just time passing. They are time becoming something. Let that something be built with your full attention and your full participation. You will not regret it.